Okay, this happened today and it really messed with me. I've been thinking about it all day and all evening. I took my 5-year-old son and a 3-month-old daughter to the playground today to meet a friend and her daughter. It's got regular playground equipment, a huge parking lot, and a big grassy area and trees surrounding the play area. On the other side of the trees is some sort of development thing that they're working on. The area that the school is in is pretty rural. It's just a bunch of twisty roads and random buildings. I've never thought about it or noticed this until today. We get to the park and meet up with my friend. Another mom that we know is there with her 2 girls too. The only other people there is a dad with a little girl and a boy that looked to be somewhere between 10 and 12. So the moms are all sitting, chatting, and playing with my adorable daughter, having a good time. The kids are playing together and everything is good. Eventually, all the kids from our group kind of wander off through the playground doing their own thing. The seesaws are in a shady area, and next to them is a big stretch of grass, and the trees with the semi-developed area behind that. My son wanted to seesaw, but nobody wanted to do it with him. So I get up to go help him, and the 10-ish-year-old boy comes over and says, "Hi, do you want me to play with him?" Which was a little strange that he asked me and not my son. But I said, "Sure, bud, go ahead." So he gets on the other side and he starts seesawing with him. His demeanor was so strange. He didn't smile, his voice was completely flat. He didn't say a word to my son. He just seesawed with him. My son was oblivious into chatting away at him. After a few minutes, I started walking back to my bench, and I hear the boys start talking with my son. Okay, so maybe he's shy around grown-ups. I sit down and I start talking to my friends, and the dad walks near us to probably go up to his car, and I say, "Hey, it's really sweet of your son to offer to play with mine." And I smile at him. He looks at me and goes, "He's not my son. I don't know who he is." He walked over and asked if I wanted him to play with my daughter, and then just kind of followed us around until you guys showed up. He sort of laughed like, "Weird, right?" And he shook his head. I got a very uneasy feeling in my stomach, and I looked over to the seesaws. They were gone. I jump up, hand my daughter to my friend, and run in that direction yelling my son's name. I see them walking almost to the trees. The trees are not close, I would guess a football field or so away from the play area. I get this awful feeling and I ran as fast as I could, yelling my son's name. He turned around and he started trying to walk to me, and the little boy grabs his arm and tries to pull him toward the trees. He gets upset and starts saying, "Hey, let go of me." Now usually this is not a quality about my son that brings me anything but trouble, but he does not like to be grabbed, pushed, or pulled, and he has ADHD, so when he gets frustrated it usually comes out in aggressive ways. I was so thankful for this today. He started punching the boy and headbutting him like a little crazy person. The boy lets go as I get to them, and he runs to the trees. My friends are finally realizing that something is going on, so they're standing at the edge of the play area looking confused. My son is crying and I'm shaking. I don't know what the heck just happened. I asked my son where he was going, and he said his friend wanted to take him to see Ryan, from Ryan's Toy Reviews. It's his favorite YouTube channel and he talks about it nonstop. He told the boy about Ryan, and apparently the boy told him that he knew where Ryan lived, and did my son want to go visit him and play? So of course my son said yes. I don't know what the intention was. It was a kid. I don't understand why he would lie to my son, why he wanted him to go into the woods, and why he was so weird. Maybe it was innocent, but I don't think that it was. And just so everybody knows, I did call the police and report it this morning. I don't know how much good it did. They listened and they asked me questions, but they didn't want me to come make a formal statement or anything. I'm going to be calling the school tomorrow too. This happened about a year ago. Everything was spread out over a couple of months, and I'm on my phone, so sorry if there's anything wrong. I'm known for being a very smiley, bubbly, and social girl. Okay, here's my experience. At the time this happened, I was the only person who did it to-go orders, answered all the phones and customer questions, as well as greeting and cashing out to-go or delivery orders. It was mid-December, and where I live, we have a massive Christmas festival and a tree lighting, so at the time I was getting multiple phone calls, asking if we would be open and if there were any specials and so on. I answered the phone and the typical script, which said the usual blah blah blah. The guy was nice, but after I answered his questions about our restaurant, he started asking questions about me, my age and how long I worked there, if I was from where the restaurant was located. I felt weird, but I made an excuse that I didn't have any time to answer any more questions about the restaurant and I needed to go. He told me that I sounded beautiful and that he couldn't wait to meet me. It bothered me a little bit, but I soon forgot about it. Jump forward a few weeks. The festival is here and we are busy. I'm helping in all aspects of the restaurant, and our bartender comes and grabs me and tells me that a man at her table wanted to speak to me. Me thinking that it was a complaint, I tell her okay, and I put my best to customer service smile on and I go on over. It went something like, "Hi everyone, I hope everything's okay over here, but I heard from our wonderful bartender that one of you wanted to speak with me." John, the name of the guy on the phone, was staring. "My God, you're as beautiful as I dreamed you would be. It's me, the guy you spoke to a few weeks ago. You were so amazing and I just loved you since then." I was visibly freaked out, but I kept on a customer service face. "Oh, thank you. Is anything else the matter?" "Oh no, I just had to see what my new wife looked like." "Oh, well, okay. I've got to go, y'all. Have a good night." I walk away a little nervous, but soon I get distracted again with the hustle and bustle of my job. Later on, the bartender comes over and tells me that John wants to say goodbye. So I give a smile and a wave, but that was not good enough. He comes to me, arms open, and wants a hug. I awkwardly smile and try to give him a distant side hug. That's not good enough, and he grabs my shoulder, causing me to face forward, and he gives me a really tight and hard hug. The night's over, and I ignore my uneasy feelings. I end up becoming sick for a couple of days. When I come back, my manager comes to speak to me and tells me that John had called the restaurant around 56 times, and he would only ask to speak with me. As we're discussing this, the bartender tells me that somebody wants to speak with me on the phone. I go behind the bar and I answer, and guess who? It's John telling me that he loved seeing me and couldn't wait for us to get married. I hung up. My manager and I decided to block the number. I finish my shift for the day and I start walking to my car. I notice a car parked weirdly in the parking lot and I giggle and ignore it. The car is pulling up and it said something that I'm not paying attention and I don't hear them. I get into my car and I start replying to the messages that I got during my shift. But I notice the same car is now parked beside me. The window is cracked so I can see that they are facing me, but I can't tell much else. The car then pulls up to each side of my car and stares at me from each side for 5 minutes or so. I notice that it's John and I'm scared. I was too scared to drive off, thinking that he would follow me. The only thing that I could think of is to call my job. 4 of the guys come sprinting out of the back with knives and the car drives off. We don't have cameras in our parking lot. It's really crappy, I know. But they all calm me down and I drive home watching everything around me. That night, my phone started acting extremely weird, shutting on and off and out of control as an apps are opening even though I hadn't touched them, and that has never happened before. I decided to shut my phone off completely, knowing that I had another option of calling someone if need be. I wake up the next morning feeling nervous. I get ready for work and I head out to my car. As I'm pulling away, I notice something on the side of my house. I go up and see that it's 2 pocket knives. One appeared to have blood on it. The other was above my head, so I had to step back, and I noticed the second knife was stabbed into a picture. I noticed that it was a picture of me at a store shopping. I was so done, so I called the police. They take my statement and do the whole process that you have to go through when reporting something like this. And to make this long story a bit shorter, 2 other scary things that happened were pictures taken of me at random times and areas. They were thrown all over my deck and a note left in my car at work that said, "Hi pretty, I love you." The paper looked like it was soaked in blood. It was fake. So now the number is blocked. Everyone in my restaurant knows what this man looks like. I get walked in and out of my job by a male manager or a different coworker. I have cameras everywhere and weapons. I hate having to do this, but it's for my own protection. Luckily, nothing has happened for a bit. I just figured that others would find this interesting, or maybe it's happening to someone else and it makes them feel less alone. So, this happened to me and my best friend when we were in high school. We live in the lovely state of Hawaii, and we would often go to the beach or a short walk from my house when she would stay over. To give a brief description of us, we're both fair-skinned females, blondish and brown hair, and have light-colored eyes. We both look pretty similar, except she has corkscrew curls. People would ask if we were sisters while we were growing up. This is slightly important for later on in the story. Anyway, a good portion of where I grew up was good old Iwa Beach. Deep into Iwa like Haubush. If anyone knows where that is or has heard of it, you know where I'm talking about. For the rest, it's an area where homeless, druggies, buyers and sellers tend to hang out, and the beach is actually quite rocky. If you head up the beach though, there are less rocks and less people. That nicer area of the beach is the part that's closer to my house, and where we usually would go. Kind of like a secret beach location, but not really if you lived in that particular area. So one weekend, my friend, let's name her Jessica, and I were hanging out at my house. We decided to go hang out at the beach and tan and do whatever. This particular day though, we had decided that instead of walking to the slightly less rocky beach, we would go to the secret beach near White Plains. No rocks, not too many people, nicer waves, and more beach. It was about a 10 to 15 minute drive since it was like the next neighborhoods next to Iwa, and I thought, what the heck, why not? We get to the beach and there's not a lot of people. It's a lovely day and we put our stuff down and just start chilling. And then it happens. Jessica and I had been there maybe all of 20 minutes when we were approached by a man that was maybe about 30 to 40 years old. Average build, dark hair, and a bit of facial hair if I remember. There was nothing about him at first to give us any creepy vibes. He was local, and it's not uncommon for strangers to come up to each other at the beach and talk story or ask something. So we thought nothing of it when the man introduced himself as Dave. However, after his polite intro, he then proceeded to tell us that he was a journalist and reporter for a well-known local newspaper, and he was doing an article about tourists and their thoughts on less-known beaches. Jessica and I immediately gave each other that side look like, yeah, something isn't right here. That sentence alone made us suspicious for a couple reasons. One, he had no camera, notebook, or pen or anything to indicate that he was taking notes for his story. He was also just wearing swim trunks, not really professional appearance. Two, there was a report in the news around that time that young girls were being conned into modeling agencies and being approached by men on beaches, the mall, or anywhere tourists or locals were known to frequent, and being kidnapped. And three, he had not given us any proof that he in fact worked at said newspaper, or that his name really was Dave, like a business card. Because of this, we decided we weren't going to trust anything this guy said. I would also like to note that while we were in a secret spot, it wasn't a spot that a lot of tourists really know about or even go to. They like to go to the beaches near their hotels or the ones that they've heard or read about, and they wouldn't drive all the way here. Really, it's where locals hang out. This is kind of where our descriptions come into play because I was born and raised there, even if I didn't look like it, and so was Jessica. It would be pretty easy to mistake us for dumb tourists. Anyway, so Dave says that he's writing this story right. He then asked us what our names are and is starting to look at me and Jessica up and down, almost like he's memorizing what we look like and sizing us up. Never in my life had I ever gotten such major stranger danger vibes from a guy, and I proceed to give him some fake name off the top of my head. Jessica follows suit. This is where it starts to get even creepier and uncomfortable. After a brief pause and more intense staring, Dave proceeds to say, "Well, are you girls hungry? I got food in my barbecue at the van if you wanted to hang out." Yeah, this dude said van and points to his open green-colored kidnapper van. Instantly, the red flags are flapping in the hurricane-like winds of our instincts. Why in the world would two 16-year-olds want to hang out with a middle-aged man? It was almost like the teen version of asking you if you wanted candy. You just had to hop into the van. And Dave wasn't even asking us questions about the beach until we heard about it. In fact, it was like he completely forgot the reason why he was there and he just wanted us to go in his van with him. We told him that we were okay and thanks for the offer, hoping that he would leave us alone. Dave wasn't going to take no for an answer either. He kind of got a look on his face like he was surprised that we had turned him down, and then he got more forceful. "Are you sure? I got chicken and some drinks, it'll be fun," he said, hoping that we would cave if he kept being persistent. Again, we told him no, and he decided to leave us alone for now, only to walk to his van, sit and watch us lying on the beach. It was really unsettling to have him stare at us like that, like he was waiting to see what we would do. More so because we were two young girls in bikinis by ourselves in a somewhat closed-off beach. There was a group of guys that wasn't too far from us. Military guys, pretty easy to tell. And Jessica and I decided to go and talk to them. Plus, we felt a little safer knowing that we weren't alone on the beach with this guy. So we walked up to the group and we asked them if Dave had come over to them, and did ask them any questions regarding his story. The guys looked at us and then looked at Dave and said that he hadn't approached them at all, and that they had been on the beach for a while before us. Jessica and I took this as a sign that it was time to pack up and go home. Dave was still watching us. He had seen our interaction with the dudes, as we came back and gathered up our things and walked off towards my truck. We didn't immediately walk straight to my truck, and we kind of walked past it to see if David packed up his stuff to start following us. I was parked along the road and had the trees blocking the beach on one side, so if anybody decided they wanted to snatch you up off the road, you couldn't see it from the beach. Luckily, we didn't see him and we left, checking my rearview mirror in case I saw that suspicious van follow me back to my house. On the way back home, Jessica asked me if I had gotten that gut feeling the same time that he had said that he was working for the newspaper. I said that I did, and we both told each other the exact same things that made us feel that way. It was almost like we had read each other's minds, and we were seeing the exact same thing. It's a really eerie experience. I think what made the experience all the more unnerving was that he seemed to be looking for specific targets. He hadn't asked the guys anything, so he was definitely looking for girls. Who knows? Maybe he could have been trying to kidnap us, and he was trying to get either one or both of us into that van. I have never been back to that particular area of White Plains since this. I almost wonder what would have happened if that group of guys wasn't there, or if we hadn't listened to our guts.